Well, we now know who the pick to be the next Supreme Court Justice is, Judge Kavanaugh. Alan, what do you think of the pick?
Great pick. I mean, he's been praised by a lot of people from both sides of the aisle. I understand, there was already preordained protests set up against him. They already had picket signs already, manufactured ahead of time, so they were all ready for it. Some folks on the far left. Listen, give the guy a fair hearing and see what he has to say. From everything I understand, he's a strict constitutionalist, and he's for, free speech, First Amendment for all sides of the aisle. So I don't know who's going to be able to find fault with him at all. And he's already said that he will abide by the law that's already been established. So when people have said, oh my God, R.V. Wade, I mean, he's already indicated a couple of times in interviews in the last 10 years that he would have no intention of overturning R.V. Wade. So, I mean, that's not an issue. Give the guy a fair hearing like we gave Elena Kagan back in 2010.
Mike, what did you think of the choice as it came out kind of on your side? What was the thinking?
It was a surprisingly safe choice, I will say that. I thought that there were certainly choices that were a little more bold on his short list that he could have made. That being said, I do think that there are some problematic things with his record. I think he's got a fairly problematic view of the convergence of technology and society. He's doing things like citing beeper cases from 1983 when we're talking about GPS records on cell phones in 2018. So that's unfortunately a little dated. I think we're going to see how things shake out, right? It is, as I've said before, an all-hands-on-deck moment for those of us on the left side. And we're going to fight it out, right? And that will absolutely, I'm sure, go all the way through him getting his up or down.
I think R.V. Wade has been something that's been brought up a lot in the conversation by both sides, whether or not that would be something that could potentially be under attack. Alan seems to say that, well, he would honor existing law. Do you believe that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not one tiny little bit. Again, there's a reason why it's an all-hands-on-deck moment. Again, I think it's been a priority for so long. Certainly, the vast majority of the rhetoric my entire life has revolved around overturning this law. And so, I expect to see action, although there are plenty of voices even on the right that say that would be a potentially bothersome task that's not going to get you a necessarily a win that you want, right? You're hearing like Tomi Lahren even, and I don't know how often somebody like me is up here agreeing with somebody like Tomi Lahren, but on this I do. I absolutely agree with her. I think this is, that's a perilous path, and you want to tread on that very, very gently. So, time will tell. We'll see. I certainly hope not, but we're going to fight tooth and nail on the in-between.
And there would be implications. Some 20 states could face immediate reversals. Nevada not one of them, because those protections or those decisions are enshrined in our Nevada Constitution. But there could be major impacts right away if action were to be taken, say, on something like R.V. Wade.
Yeah, let me be real clear. I personally would like to see R.V. Wade overturned. Personally, I mean, I very much would. I'm pro-life, and I make no bones about that. But having said that, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. He has said, actually, in interviews over the last 10 years, that specifically he would observe the law that's already been implemented and recognized and established. And he specifically, about R.V. Wade, said he would not overturn that particular law. So, listen, I think he's going to go to the hearings. I think they're going to try to skewer him. Dianne Feinstein's going to go crazy, tearing her hair out like she did over Barrett back a year and a half ago. So, I mean, I understand all that's going to happen. The left is going, listen, no matter who was nominated, people are going to hate it because Trump nominated him. You said something last week very interesting. You said that actually they're just about all qualified. The one person we agreed that we would, with the one person's name was being floated was Mike Lee. We both
Absolutely.
went,
Absolutely.
But everyone else, we said they're eminently qualified, and he is of that group who's eminently qualified.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And and part of that qualification is he does have a record, right, of his judicial temperament. And I think we're going to see that run down, and I think that's something that we all should be very concerned with.
And he was hired at law school by who? Elena Kagan.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had a caller actually call me and say, after this all came down that night, and I had callers coming, and one caller said, I'm not sure that I want him, a very conservative caller, because if Elena Kagan hired him, what does that mean? Well, I said, come on, please, just wait and see how everything shakes out before you say no. I think he'll be approved. I think that you'll have the moderate Republicans will be behind him. I think you'll wind up with a couple of Democrats behind him as well, people who are in red states, and so I think he'll definitely be confirmed.
Big news this week that made national headlines as well here out of Nevada. Scott Dozier was set to be put to death Wednesday night, and earlier in the day on Wednesday, one of the drug companies, actually with the second one joining on, were able to get the execution halted under the pretense, or under the premise that as long as this drug was going to be used, you can't go forward with the execution. So it's been 12 years since the last person had been put to death here in Nevada. There are continually now questions, not just in Nevada but other states, about the drugs that are now used as more and more companies say, well, hold on, we don't want our drugs affiliated with this. So with all of that set up, is it time to make a change on the death penalty here in Nevada?
Again, it's 12 years. We are not, unless it's Clark County, in the business of really employing the death penalty here in Nevada, right? Clearly, there are some problems with it right now. Again, I think that we do need to make sure that we're taking a look at the drug protocols, if that's the method of choice that we're going to use here. I think that, that does need to be examined, right? We are, in the business at that point of the state taking someone's life. Right, and I think we need to take that very, very seriously. This isn't, this is one of the most serious things that we do, right? As a society, is choose to end the life of one of our members, and we need to take that seriously. And in this instance, at least, the state lied to the drug manufacturer, according to them, right, about how this drug was procured in this instance. And that in and of itself is problematic. In an entirely separate vein, in this instance, in an issue that's already fraught, right, with problems, we need to make sure that, that it is not unusually cruel, right? That what we're doing, remains constitutional, and the drug protocol, since that's our method of choice, matters in this instance.
Would you like to see, would you like to see it repealed, the death penalty?
So that's a complicated issue for me. One of my friends when I was younger was, her life was taken via murder, and he was up for it. So it's very, very, very conflicted issue for me personally. Ultimately, I do believe that it does serve a purpose, right, within society. It is there, again, not as a deterrent. I don't buy that argument. I don't think that there's any validity to that at all. But it is there for the worst of the worst, right? And as such, we do need to, there is no prize in this for the speed of execution, I guess, right? The point is that is a final punishment, correct? And so as we approach that, we need to approach it with the seriousness of something that is final, that is in fact fatal.
Alan, what do we do with the death penalty here? We seem to be, at least with it on the books, we seem to be having a hard time following the procedures to properly implement it based on what's on the books.
You started to use the word pretense, and then you changed that word. But yes, I think the decision was a pretense for a judge that is anti-capital punishment, and I think she used anything she could to be able to find it so the execution wouldn't go forward. As I understand it, by the way, in Utah they use chemicals also, and if for some reason they can't use it, they have the firing squad available. And I would like to see us revert to that same thing as well. I do believe in the death penalty. I do believe it's a deterrent if it's used and done the right way. Now, every 12 years or 13 or how many years it is that we have an execution, it's not going to be a deterrent. But if you have a crime that's committed and it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that the person did DNA and everything else. It's there. I want to make sure that that execution is as swift as possible. Let it be in the headlines everywhere, and let other people know if you commit a heinous crime like this. Dozer's crime. I mean, and he cut somebody.
Without a doubt.
He
Without a
still
doubt.
found all the body.
Absolutely horrific.
So you know, this horrific crime like that. You commit a horrific crime like that, you will pay the ultimate price. I mean, there's another aspect to this, and that is that he wants to die because he doesn't want to be in a 12 by 12 or whatever it is, 9 by 9, or cell the rest of his life. And so I've heard some people who are for the death penalty say, keep him there because it's like torturous to him or something like that. And there's an argument to be made for that as well. Again, if it's used the right way, publicized the right way, I think that we should use it. There are people out there, the Charlie Mansons of the world.
Sure.
He's dead now, but he shouldn't have died in prison the way he did. He should have been executed years before, and all the people who worked with him. These kinds of crimes, I mean, you can't say to me, well, someday these people may wind up curing cancer. Let's wait and see what happens. I mean, you know, these people are heinous, ugly, evil people, and there's no reason to keep them around as far as I'm concerned.
On the front end of it, I mean, we see a lot of cases that become death penalty cases here in Clark County. The district attorney has made no bones that he would go, and Steve Wilson has no bones about going down that avenue. Do we create a backlog because on the back end of it now we don't seem to have a way of well, putting that final punishment into place?
Sure. You know, again, I feel like, and this is where I believe we disagree, is not necessarily on the policy, but the employment of the policy and how swiftly it should be done. You know, I don't have a problem with a long backlog, and you know, and in this instance, I don't much care that Dozier wants to die. I don't know that he gets to make that choice. I believe he gave that choice up when you know, he decided to dismember people. I don't know that you get to choose anymore. So that choice has been taken away. So no, you know, again, I don't have a problem with there being a backlog of people waiting to be executed by the state. I understand that it's expensive, but I believe that that's the price you pay for, in this instance, you know, going down that ultimate route of execution.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I'm not worried about how antiseptic it is. I mean, we're so concerned about that. Is he going to suffer or not? The guy is going to be killed. He's going to die. And we give these people a last meal. I mean, what would you like? What kind of a last meal did he give the guy he dismembered? I mean, to me, this is beyond ludicrous that we are bending over backwards to make sure that everything is just so nice, and it's like he's going to sleep and everything's okay. I don't, you know, that doesn't bother me that you tell me the guy suffered. What he did to those people, one in, I guess, Arizona and one here, was beyond horrendous. And again, I invoke people like Charlie Manson who promoted things like horrendous things. I mean, these people, I mean, I have no problem with it. If you have DNA, you know it's done, you get rid of them. I want to make sure that we have the DNA, and I want to make sure it's beyond a complete shadow of a doubt. There have been people who've been on death row for years, who have been found to be absolutely innocent once the DNA was clarified years later. And I don't want to go ahead and have the state execute people who are innocent. We shouldn't be convicting people who are innocent, for that matter. But I don't want to execute someone who's innocent. So it's got to be beyond a complete shadow of a doubt, completely.
Let's talk a little bit about the race to get the RNC, the convention here in 2020. It was down to us in Charlotte, North Carolina. Michael McDonald, the chair of the GOP, really made a huge push here of the Nevada GOP. Hanging on to hope by a string. Charlotte now the front runner. The LVCVA, essentially what it boils down to is saying we can't afford to black out these locations for the weeks on end the Secret Service needs leading up to that. Can we make those accommodations? Is this an important enough event that we should be bending over backwards to bring this here?
6 weeks is never going to fly in Las Vegas. I mean, that's a preposterously long time for a city, you know, that revolves around multiple fast turnarounds in a day. That's simply something that's never going to happen there. You know, so again, if you know, if people are willing to come to the table, that may happen. I know. You know, McDonald is out there, you know, with fingers crossed for 2020 or 2024. I'm sorry. You know, but until something like this requirement to have not just a venue, but a series of venues locked down for over a month. That's just never going to happen here. It's a pipe dream until very fundamental things like that happen. And even then, it's a very complicated environment. You know, if you've ever been to one of these highline events, political events here in Las Vegas, you know, and you pay attention to the security that comes along with the Secret Service, it's a very, very serious and involved protocol. And Las Vegas is not a real great environment for that, which is why, by the way, you see those events on the outskirts of town as opposed to right in the center and the heart. It's very, very difficult.
How ironic is it that the one thing that we are very good at and should be something that would help us be a front runner is actually used to our detriment? It seems very ironic.
I talked to Michael McDonald after the information came out, and he said to me that the couple of things. One is that the Democrats in this town didn't lift a finger. No Democrat lifted a finger to assist in trying to get the convention or support the idea of a Republican convention coming here. Whereas in Charlotte, you did have some Democrats oppose it, but some were supporting it. The mayor, I understand, is a Democrat, supported coming there also. So, I mean, that was one political facet of it. The other aspect of it is I've been to conventions, to presidential conventions before, and yeah, there is a ton of security there, as well there should be. And I think that should be a concern. I don't know if 6 weeks is the amount of time that they need. I don't know. I'm not I don't work for the Secret Service, so I can't tell you. But you know, there should be a reasonable amount of time that that they need to have to clear everything away. Having said that, you know, there's always still the concern about all the other aspects of security. I mean, you're going to have everybody on every building, you know, with long rifles and everything like that. So would I like to see the conventions come here? I said before in this show, I would like to have seen in 2020 the Republican and Democrat conventions both come here. And then having said that, I'd still like to see both come here in 2024, work it out so they can both come here. I mean, it would be fantastic PR for Las Vegas. The whole world would be, for a whole summer, would be talking about Las Vegas and these two conventions. I mean, we could use that kind of great publicity.
Yeah, and on that I absolutely agree. You know, on a personal level, I'm deeply disappointed that the convention isn't going to be here. It would have been a heyday for me personally and professionally. But you know, but aside from that, it would be excellent for Las Vegas to be able to pull a highline event like that. As much fun as it is to, you know, to kind of poke and jab. You know, ultimately it would make the city look much more excellent, right? And right. Just, you know, kind of let us shed that you know, what happens here stays here kind of, you know, grown-up Disneyland
I don't want to
image.
Shed that. I don't want to shed that.
Well, not let me rephrase. Not shed it, right? Add to it, right? Elevate it a little bit.
All right.
And, you know, that we could, you know, that we're capable of doing serious things also as well as fun things here.
I'm with you on that.
You kind of have those benchmarks that you hit as a city as you grow. You fight for the Final Four, the NCAA basketball
right.
tournament. You fight for the Super Bowl, and then something like this, the political conventions as well. So it's part of the growing up process as well, I think, for Las Vegas, right? Trying to
without a doubt.
attract a major event like a political convention.
You know, and to hold two conventions in the summer, which to me would be a dream.
Seems like we could do it.
It's been done before, and it would be a lot of overtime for Metro and others. But
sure.
You know what? Let's go for it sometime.
Oh, worth it. Yeah, worth it for that.
Let's talk about the Senate race, Rosen v. Heller. We've seen that Rosen has been outraising Heller so far. Heller still has more cash on hand. What is going to be, will there be a big issue that might kickstart the fundraising more for one side or the other to kick that into high gear? We know that obviously the outside groups pour in a lot more money than the candidates themselves do, but still the candidate work and fundraising for them is very important. Alan, what do you think is going to be the one big issue that might flip the money race or really give it a boost the other way?
Well, it is a good question. Rosen has outraised him. I think it was 8 some odd million to 5 some odd million over since he announced last July. Listen, as an outside, Democrats around the country see him as being probably the most vulnerable Senate seat in the country. I don't think that he has necessarily helped himself, and the people who helps helped run his campaigns, I don't think have helped him either in his quest to be reelected. He has, as the Democrats have said, and rightfully so, flip-flopped on a bunch of issues. That's absolutely true. He does not appear for media interviews like some of his predecessors did. John Ensign and some of the others very much were available to the press on a regular basis. So I mean, you know, in some ways, he's become his own worst foil. He really has. On the other hand, Jackie Rosen, the president likes to call her Wacky Jackie, she can't, she's got no background, and I don't think there's any there. But again, she's got the Democrats seeing, around the country, seeing that this is the most vulnerable seat. The state went for Hillary Clinton. And part of that responsibility lies on the shoulders of Joe Heck, who is no longer in Congress, and Dean Heller, who was a never Trumper until he became, oh, now I'm an always Trumper. So, you know, again, you can walk on both sides of the line, but eventually you have to wind up taking a stand on something. Something I learned a long time ago when I was very young. You know, you sit on a fence, refuse to take sit on a fence, you wind up with splinters up a very private area. So, you know, you want to be, you want to take a stand on something, one way or the other. I mean, if you're on the other side, take a stand on it, and I'd love to debate you on it. But don't tell me, well, I'll see, and I'll get back to you, and we'll talk about it tomorrow and next week, and we'll be here till Friday. I don't care about that stuff.
So is President Trump the big issue in this Senate race?
I agree with Alan on this. Dean Heller's the biggest issue in this. You know, he is a master of self-inflicted wounds. You know, if given the opportunity to hurt himself or hold himself back in some way, even in a seemingly impossible situation, he will find a way to do that. He is quite incredible. Sure. It is fascinating to me to watch him operate. You know, it's almost like he does not want the job anymore. You know, he's so disconnected from everybody, you know, that he represents. It's impossible to get this guy. It's not just the media, it's everybody. He's not available to anybody, apparently, unless, you know, you're going to stand next to him in front of a camera. The guy is unavailable. It's like playing whack-a-mole. Every once in a while he pops up for a couple of seconds and then he drops, and then you never know where he's going to pop up next. That doesn't make for a good relationship with the people that you're asking to vote for you. You know, if any of his positions on anything that he takes a position on were genuine, I don't know that he would necessarily be in this situation right now. But I also don't know that many of the positions that he takes are in fact genuine. I think he's a master of you know, attempting to try to read the political wind, right? And see which way things are going, and he will absolutely say whatever he needs to whoever he is in front of to make a clean escape and live to do it another day.
You know, one of the big issues in politics the last couple of years, a few years have been optics. And he recently spoke before a Republican men's club and for a luncheon. And the media was told, you can't come in. Now, they had never been told that before or since, and it's something to do with space. I've spoken before with that group, by the way, and there are plenty of room where a media could stand against the wall, back against the wall, you know. But I don't think he or his handlers, wanted media to get close to him and ask him any questions. And the optics on that it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, if you really want to be reelected, you should be out there, be willing to confront whatever goes on. Listen, I'm against media people doing surprise hits on candidates. You know, they're having lunch somewhere, dinner, and all this. What Maxine Waters suggests. Also, I'm totally against that. But you know what? As the sitting U.S. Senator wanting to be reelected, you have an obligation, I think, to address issues to the people, and you do that through the media. You do it through television. Do it through the print media. You certainly do it through talk radio. I had him on when he was running for election. They would call me almost every week and say, can we have him on by phone, come in the studio, he's going to be down there, can he come in? I never turned him down. I never turned him down one time. He got elected and it's been like 5.5 years. He has never once come on my show, on a phone or any other way. And when I did try to get him on, they said, I'm sorry, who are you? I said, well, he's been on my show before. So write an email to so-and-so back in D.C., which I did, never heard back. And I'd call and say, I never heard back. And they say, well, we'll get back, and they don't get back to me. I mean, terrible, terrible, terrible relationship with the media. And listen, will I probably hold my nose and vote for him? Probably, because of his opponent. But I'm not excited. I'm not excited in the least bit.
Well, let's leave it there. Thank you both for coming in this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.